Carolina has yet another five-star freshman coming in Caleb Wilson. It's time to go show him off.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It is Tuesday. It's May 27th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shadier, joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to thank you for joining us here to get your day going. Special shout out to all the everydayers who are here with us, all the members of the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, and of course, our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders. Coming up on the show today, coming out of the holiday weekend, we got some great news at the tail end of last week. It's reported that Carolina and BYU are going to play an exhibition game. That means we got two top 10 freshmen in America squaring off. The Diamond Heels snagged the number 5 national seed in the NCAA baseball tournament. But is that the right pick? I will talk about that. That comes on the heels of the Heels winning the ACC tournament, overshadowed only by women's lacrosse, bringing home another national championship. Woo-hoo-hoo! It was a great Sunday for Carolina athletics. We'll get to all that later in the show. But we got to start with this great reported exhibition game that came out. It sounds like Carolina and BYU are going to be squaring off out in Utah in October. Now, I love this. I love this right out of the gate. I love a whole bunch about it. I love that we can now have these exhibition games and that they can be open. I love that the NCAA has finally changed their tune on some of this as they realize just like, hey, we can get more eyeballs on our sports by allowing good things to happen. So well done here. I love that these games can be televised where it's like, yeah, it's an exhibition game. And not only does it not have to be secret, but we can all watch it on TV. So hopefully this will be on a great network. Next, I love that it can be all high majors. Remember, it used to be you could play one high major and one like mid-major or something of that nature. And then they've continued to change it and update it to where you could do 2 high majors or both low major, but in a secret, all these different ramifications. Anyway, now I love that it can be 2 high majors, and that's great. I also love that we're going to be getting Carolina against a projected top 5 preseason team in BYU, because not only do they have Dybantsa coming in, they returned several guys, and they're looking to be really strong, BYU is. So I love that we're going to get Carolina against that, although I hate and am frustrated by the fact that Carolina is not also one of those projected top 5 preseason teams. So this is a big opportunity to go prove yourself. And yes, I know it's an exhibition, but like, so what? Go show that even on the road, as Carolina did with Memphis last year, you can be phenomenal. And then I also love that we're going to get 2 top 10 players in the freshman class squaring off in the form of Caleb Wilson for Carolina, who finished 8th at 247 Sports, and Dybantsa, who actually got bumped down. He is now 2nd at 247 Sports behind. Who do you finish behind? I can't think of his name. It's not coming to me. Homie that went to Kansas to be their guard. I don't know why his name's not coming to me right now. That's frustrating. It's going to pop up in my head in the middle of the show, and then I'll say it. But I love these 2 young men. Both of them have really fun games. And I love that we're going to get to see them square off, which we've seen a lot, including at last year's Peach Jam Championship when Dybantsa's team squared off against Caleb Wilson and the Boozer twins, the Knight Riders. And so really cool stuff there. Darren Peterson, that's who I was trying to think. Is that his last name? Darren Peterson? Yeah, I think so. Anyway, so really great stuff to have this reported matchup. And ultimately, this is great for Carolina as a program, because a lot of what we've talked about, remember, is that it's like, man, Carolina went wacky with their non-con schedule last year. And maybe that was a bit too much. But if they can do some of that in exhibition games, some of those high majors, to test themselves that way, I think that makes sense. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, maybe you don't have to schedule as many crazy games in non-con. But if you still want to test yourself against some of the other elite teams in the nation, utilize these 2 exhibition games to do it. Doesn't that make some sense? So I like Carolina doing this. And again, on the road at BYU. So I love it. It's great for the program. Find other top teams and play them. I also love that it's at the Delta Center, which is the home of the Utah Jazz, right? Go play in fun arenas. Give these guys opportunities. Why? Because then that is a recruiting pitch. Like, hey, it might not be a regular season game, but we're going to go play exhibition games in the home arenas of NBA franchises. Last year, Carolina did that. It was a little bit of a double dip, but Carolina went to play Memphis at FedEx Forum. Yes, that's where the Tigers play their home game, but it's also where the Grizzlies play their home games. And so you get a lot of stuff like that. So I like that side of it for the program too. I like this for the program because I imagine we're going to have a return game next year, because one of the things we're starting to see around the country is a lot of home and home exhibitions scheduled, just like we're doing in the regular season, right? Like Carolina and Kansas right now have that home and home series. It was in Fog Allen Fieldhouse last year. It'll be in the Dean Dome this year. And so I would expect, because this game hasn't been officially reported yet by either school. I'll talk about the reporting here in a second, but I would expect when the official reporting does come out that we will hear, hey, this is going to be a home and home. And at some point next year, there will be a game close to Chapel Hill. Given the way this has been, playing at FedEx Forum, playing this one at the Delta Center, I got to imagine that this one might be like at the Spectrum Center where the Hornets play, something like that. We'll see when it's all said and done. Now, the other thing that makes this great for the program is that now there's no restriction. Like Carolina can take the revenue from these games. Now, obviously, this one's on the road, but when you do these at home, you get to have that money at the school's discretion. Do you want it for NIL purposes? Yes. What else are you going to do with it, right? And so we will look at that. Another part of this is I have pitched this as 2 of the nation's top 10 freshmen going after one another. AJ Dybantsa for BYU, Caleb Wilson for North Carolina. But let's not miss that while they're going to get all the headlines, and rightly so, they're the 2 top NBA prospects in this game, it's really important for Carolina as a team to show up here, for Seth Trimble to show who he's going to be, for all to see what Carolina's going to have in Kyan Evans and Henry Vasar and Jaron Stevenson and Jonathan Powell and the other incoming freshmen and Derek Dixon and Isaiah Dennis, right? Like, so yes, those 2 freshmen will get all the headlines, but this is about Carolina as a team showing who they are, which I think a lot of us probably expect is a pretty underrated Carolina team. While yes, there are hopefully at least one more critical piece to add to this thing, I'm excited for Carolina to do that. So yes, pay attention to the freshmen, but watch for that. Now, I mentioned it's hilarious how we found out about this, because as I haven't used the words like, hey, this is definitely happening right now. This is just reported and projected. So Robbie McCombs reported last week that, quote, BYU athletic director Brian Santiago announced on Friday at BYU's father and sons basketball camp that BYU Hoops will play North Carolina this upcoming season in the Delta Center in Salt Lake City. So it seems like BYU's AD just maybe off the cuff said this at this father and sons basketball camp, and McCombs and probably others heard it and were like, yeah, we're going to report that. And so as of yet, it's like a reported matchup. But again, as I said earlier, not one yet verified, or, there's no press release out from either Carolina or BYU, at least as we record this. So again, from McCombs' own reporting, he's been reporting, he talks about in his article back previous months that Carolina and BYU seem to have been working on something. And so that also makes it seem not all that surprising that this is going to happen. So in terms of big picture then for Carolina, assuming that this exhibition is happening, there should be at least one other exhibition game announced, if not 2. And I'm including in that this game, this BYU game, which it sounds like it's going to be late October from McComb's reporting, probably making it the second exhibition, leading pretty closely into the first regular season game. And part of that is because BYU is already scheduled to play Nebraska earlier in the month of October. So my guess about how the exhibition schedule is going to go for Carolina is that they will have the blue-white scrimmage again, which last year happened on October 12th. Remember, that was the game where RJ Davis got hurt and then couldn't play in the Memphis game. And then it was blue-white, Memphis game, and then against Johnson C. Smith as kind of the final tune-up. Well, it seems like with the way this schedule is going, that the BYU game, based on where it projects to be with what McCombs is saying, is going to be probably the final game before the regular season tips off. So I would expect a game between blue and white in the BYU games. And again, last year it was that traditional non-D1 Johnson C. Smith, which you used to have to do. Now that you don't, I really hope that Carolina's other non-intra-squad scrimmage is against another high major team. Like, do that and play it at home so that you can benefit financially from it and get in the game at home. I just think that would be massive. Maybe even it's, and we obviously don't have reporting on this yet, but maybe you get a return game from Memphis. Maybe Memphis comes back. I don't know. We'll see. But last year, you had that blue-white scrimmage on October 12th, Memphis October 15th, Johnson C. Smith on October 27th, and then the season started with Elon on November 4th. So that final exhibition was just over a week away from the regular season, which this year starts on November 3rd. So how's that all going to come together? We're yet to find out, but more coming, certainly. And I would expect probably sooner now rather than later, especially since this news is out, that we will get official word on this BYU exhibition. All right. The Diamond Heels are a top 8 regional host for the second straight season. The final push toward Omaha starts this weekend in the Bosch. We'll talk about that in just a second. Right after I tell you about Monarch Money, do you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Because between dining out and online shopping and entertainment, it's really easy to lose track of it all, especially in the summer where you're just like taking trips and buying watermelon and going to the pool, whatever else. Well, that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO giving you full visibility of and control over all your finances. Monarch Money is not just some budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center where you can track all your accounts, your investments, and your spending in one place. So you stop just like managing your money and you actually start building wealth. Instead of juggling multiple apps, you can use Monarch to check your finances, track your spending, and even plan out long-term goals. I love that because my wife and I, we're always trying to be on the same page financially. Like, that's a big deal for us. And Monarch helps take all the stress out of doing that. So join us and take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Again, that's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Okay, it's time to talk NCAA baseball tournament. I've pulled up Carolina's regional bracket for those of you watching on YouTube in real time. Welcome in to all of you. By the way, Carolina, the great news is that the Heels are going to be hosting as long as they're winning in the NCAA postseason. They will host a regional this weekend. Should they make it out of that regional, they would then host a super regional next weekend, the weekend on the back end of the first week of June. But the bad news is that I was projecting, and just based on numbers and rankings and other people's projections, that Carolina, when everything was announced yesterday around this time, was going to either be the 3rd or 4th national seed. And there was on Sunday evening, they've kind of gotten into a habit the NCAA has of tweeting out or letting us know all the regional hosts. And obviously Carolina was that. But then on Monday morning, the NCAA baseball put out a tweet that was like, here's the top 4 national seeds alphabetically. And it was not Carolina. Alphabetically, it was Arkansas, Auburn, Texas, Vanderbilt. And I don't know about you, but I looked at that and I went, what? Like, I couldn't. I could not with that because it just seems so ludicrous. So Carolina, it turns out, is the 5th overall seed. You got Vandy number 1, Texas 2, Arkansas 3, and Auburn 4. Carolina then 5th following those 4 SEC schools. And man, it's funny, this progression we've had of like, there's been the SEC football bias for so long. Now it's turned into SEC basketball bias and now in baseball as well. And I know that it's ACC and SEC at the top, but the way the weights have tilted in favor of the SEC is mind-boggling to me. And to be fair, yes, sure, I'm nitpicking between Carolina being 5 versus 3 or 4. But compare what Carolina is and has done to Auburn, who got the 4th overall seed. Auburn is 38-18 on the season, 17-13 in the SEC. They finished 6th in the SEC standings. They're 7-11 on the road. They had a bye in the first round of the SEC tournament and then lost to Texas A&M in the second round. And so it didn't like that. I know that the regular season has to count for something because of the longevity, and the conference tournament something else. But we got to take all that into account, where Carolina wins the ACC tournament, while meanwhile they can't even win their first game of the SEC tournament. Carolina finishes 3rd in an imbalanced ACC schedule when arguably they're, probably like literally had they beaten FSU one more time to sweep that series, they're your ACC regular season champions. Auburn is sitting there 6th and barely has a winning record in conference. And like rankings are not everything, but they do matter. At the rankings, D1 baseball, one of the most respected top 25 rankings. They didn't rank after the conference tournaments, which is probably good for Auburn because they would have dropped. But heading into the conference tournaments, Carolina was 3rd, Auburn 8th. Baseball America, same thing. Probably the other main respected top 25 poll. Heading into conference tournaments, Carolina 2nd, Auburn 7th. Coaches poll, how about this? This was posted after the conference tournaments. Carolina 1st in the nation, Auburn 10th. RPI is the one place where Auburn is ahead of Carolina. They're 3rd, Carolina 6th, but a very tight gap there. And Carolina, a more comfortable gap in all of those other rankings. Somebody's going to have to explain to me why Auburn, outside of, here's what they won't say, but here's what it is. SEC versus ACC. And we looked at that and said, yeah, Auburn. If that's your only explanation, that is crap, man. I need to hear somebody give me a valid, logicked reason for Auburn to be number 4 while Carolina's 5. Fine, whatever. And you know what? This is going to feel weird to me, but NC State is in Auburn's region, and I'm going to cheer like crazy for the Wolfpack. It's really cheering for not Auburn just because I'm mad that they got the seed Carolina probably should have gotten, but that is enough. I'm that vindictive that I don't mind cheering for the Wolfpack in that moment. In fact, just because I'm sick and tired of the SEC with all of this, I'm going to be an ACC proponent in this postseason. Like, obviously I want Carolina to run through everybody they play, but I just can't, man. It's so frustrating. Anyway, going to be an ACC friendly NCAA tournament for me. And don't say it doesn't matter whether Carolina is 5th versus 4th or 3rd, because every step you take higher towards the number 1 overall seed, you face slightly worse teams. And every little edge and advantage you can get matters, man. Because in baseball, it's not as clear cut as like football or basketball. Like every inch you can matters. And so Carolina to be 5 instead of 3 or 4 is going to hurt them in terms of both who they're paired with in their regionals and who they're paired up against in the super regionals. It's just a little bit of a different level. It hurts both Carolina, and it also hurts the teams they have to play when the selection committee poorly, doesn't accurately place everyone where they should. Every projection you saw from every reputable source on Sunday or earlier on Monday morning had Carolina 3rd or 4th in their overall ranking. It just doesn't make sense. But you know what? Let's put all of that aside, all my frustration, and here's what I'll say. Just go out and win. At the end of the day, yes, I'm frustrated and I'm screaming into the void. But it doesn't matter if you're first or 16th or 64th in this field. You got to go out and win and beat the teams that are in front of you. In Carolina, there's no reason they can't do that. Obviously, we'll set up later in the week more about the matchups in the regional, but let me just give you the bracket again. It's pulled up on screen. In the Chapel Hill regional, Carolina, the number 1 team, Oklahoma, the 2, remember they're SEC, not Big 12 any longer. Again, want to beat up on that SEC school. Nebraska, number 3, and then Holy Cross, number 4. Carolina and Holy Cross will actually kick things off with game 1, noon Eastern on Friday on ACC Network. If I remember correctly, like I saw some people asking on Monday, like, man, why is Carolina also then having to play the early game? If I remember correctly, you actually get to pick as the regional host whether you play that first or second game, if I'm remembering correctly from previous years. So I wouldn't be surprised if Coach Forbes is like, yeah, I want to get out there, take care of business, go home and rest a little bit longer, which makes a ton of sense. Remember last year, Carolina played the nightcap and almost got beat by Long Island. It took some late game heroics, nice little grand slam in the bottom of the ninth to get that win. And then Oklahoma and Nebraska will follow later at 5 p.m. on ESPN Plus. And then remember, it's double elimination, so that'll go all the way through the weekend, finishing either on Sunday or Monday, depending on if necessary game is used. Again, we'll go further and deeper into the bracket as we get toward Friday. We'll probably do that on Friday's show. So be ready for unpacking more of that as the week wears on. So there you go. North Carolina rolls into the NCAA tournament fresh off the ACC tournament championship that was overshadowed only by an undefeated women's lacrosse championship. Way to go, ladies. We're going to unpack both of those championships coming up here in just a second. Okie dokie. I got to get our show graphic back up. There we go. All right. Men, I was over the weekend, by the way, at the Indy 500, first time ever. If you've never been to the Indy 500, it's crazy cool. You need to go. It's my best friend, Brad. It was his 40th birthday this year. He and his family go every year. And he's like, hey, I'd love for any of our friend group to come that cancels. Like, let's do it. Let's make it happen. So that's why a lot of this has gotten delayed till talking about it on today's show. But let's talk about the ACC baseball champions, the North Carolina Tar Heels, their 9th ever. And it was a really interesting kind of progression. Carolina's first game against Boston College on Friday is kind of like, in the March Madness tournament, we often say, like, to win a championship, you got to kind of get lucky or get by somebody. And that's kind of what Carolina had happen with BC on Friday night. BC led most of the game 2-0, but Jake Knapp had pitched a marvelous game, pitched 7 innings, was really, really good. But headed to the bottom of the 7th, Carolina's down 2-0. And then they go out and just drop 7 runs over the course of those 2 innings, the bottom 7th, bottom 8th. And then Walker McDuffie just out here doing work again, takes care of BC in the top of the 9th, and that's it, and that's all. But BC had pitched their number 1, Colarusso, in their first game in just like 2 days, and he threw like 60, 70 in that game, and then threw over 100 in this game. I mean, just like, all right, here we go. It was like that pitcher from Virginia in the College World Series last year, whatever. But, man, crazy stuff. Carolina escapes, and that sets up the rematch with Florida State. Remember, Carolina had just wrapped the regular season, taking 2 of 3 from the Noles down in Tallahassee. And Carolina comes out and does it again. I was scared for this game. I was like, Florida State is going to be irate. They've got this great pitching. They've got all this hitting up and down the lineup, and it doesn't matter. For the third time in just like a week and a half-ish kind of span, Carolina wins against the Noles 3 out of their past 4 games. And this was a really interesting matchup. It was just one of those baseball games that was intriguing because we had some really good defense and pitching. We had some other innings with lots of scoring, and it was all sandwiched together. So no score through 3, and then both teams scored every inning 4 through 6. It was tied 5-5 after that, and then the 7th, no score. 8th inning, no score, and that sets up the pivotal 9th inning where Alex Madera comes up, reaches on a fielding era, sound like a Boston era, whatever. That's not, I can't do voices. I apologize for even trying. Alex Madera gets on base, and then Carolina, as they've done all year, plays some small ball. Hargett gets a phenomenal bunt down, trying to really sacrifice, but he put it in a perfect place. FSU can't get him out, men on first and second. Then French gets the sack bunt down second and third. And then Kane Kepley, Lion King himself, comes through with the 2 RBI single to give Carolina that 7-5 edge, which was the final score. McDuffie, nearly a perfect ninth. I think he had 1 walk in that thing, and that was it, and that's all. And, man, I just love that about this team. While last year's team, it felt like it was so often dependent on a home run to win things or to score a bunch of runs. And if not, Carolina kind of struggled to do so. And, there was a couple, like, gosh, that final win against LSU manufactured some great runs to do. That series was crazy. Gosh, I'm thinking back to the regional last year. Man, that was nuts. But it's just neat to see how this Carolina team is really strong as well, but does it a little bit different. I've just really enjoyed that. So that sets up the ACC Championship game on Sunday against Clemson, starting literally at the exact same time at noon Eastern as the Women's Lacrosse National Championship. And y'all, 14-4 had, throughout the season, you get a 10-run rule after 7 innings. Because it was a ACC tournament game, you can't do that. But Carolina would have literally run ruled Clemson if that rule was still in place. This was the Tar Heels' largest margin of victory in a title game ever. Every starter for Carolina, all 9 of them, scored at least 1 run. And what maybe the most impressive thing to me, and then I read after the fact, Coach Forbes said the same thing here, because you had started Jake Knapp Friday. You went with DeCaro in game 2 against Florida State, as you expect, but then Aiden Houck had to come on in relief. And so there was a lot of wondering, and McDuffie had pitched both Friday and Saturday night in the quarters and semifinals. So you wonder, like, oh man, who's Coach Forbes going to roll with? Do you bring Houck back out for maybe just like an inning as an opener? What do you do there? But he says, no. We're bringing out Ryan Lynch, another one of our stud freshmen, and just let him start and see what happens. This dude comes out, an unreal 4-inning start to this game. No runs, just 2 hits, 2 walks, and 7 strikeouts. Ryan Lynch, man, phenomenal stuff. Needed it on a big stage in a big moment and a big time performance in that moment. Well done. And that gives Carolina confidence to be able to use him in the regionals if necessary, in the super regionals if necessary, and even into the College World Series, where that was, I thought, Carolina's big bugaboo last year was all the starting pitching injuries that really squashed their depth pitching-wise. And so Lynch giving this performance is like, that just gives me even more hope. And by the time Lynch came out after 4 innings, Carolina was up 4-0. And then the bottom of the 5th happened, and Carolina exploded for 8 runs. 3 home runs in that frame, accounted for 7 of the 8 runs. And I mean, that's it at that point. That's 12-0. And that's it. And that's all. Stokely had 1, Tyson Bass had 1, and Jackson Vanderbrake had 1. Great. And then Carolina just kind of cruised home for the ACC Championship, used 3 other arms after Lynch. And man, it was great. Lots of guys stepping up in critical moments for the Tar Heels. Really encouraging to see. I'm feeling good heading into the regional on Friday. And of course, that means Carolina is going to get like obliterated or something, because that's how baseball works. But I think Carolina has done just about everything they could have expected. I think the only thing that really held them back, going back to the seeding, is just some of those losses at the beginning of ACC play where Carolina went through that rut, getting swept by Stanford, losing the series to Louisville. I think that's ultimately probably what hurt them, but it's just, who cares? Like I said, now you just go win. Carolina's playing their best baseball, getting their best pitching, best defense, best offense. It's great. Keep rolling. Let's win this regional this weekend. We'll set it all up as the week goes on. Women's lacrosse, national champs. Let's go. Really, really big stuff for Carolina, who has just had an absolutely absurdly dominant season. In the Final Four on Friday against Florida, Carolina found themselves down 4-2. And then the levees broke. And Carolina finished the game on an 18-0 run to win 20-4. I mean, this thing was crazy. My buddy and I were watching it, and it's just like they just kept scoring. Chloe Humphrey had her best game ever, 7 goals, career high for this stellar redshirt freshman. I mean, she's so insane. Great stuff there. And then in the championship on Sunday, again, running concurrently with the baseball game, Carolina beats Northwestern, tying their season low with, quote, just 12 goals. Crazy stuff. 4 more goals for Chloe in this one, 4 assists for her sister, Ashley Humphrey. Ashley sets the record for a single NCAA tournament with 20 assists. She has the career NCAA assist record with 258, UNC single season assist record with 90. It's just unreal stuff. This national championship game, it was weird not to see Boston College there. Northwestern had a nice comeback in the semifinals to beat them. But it was such a worthy national championship game. Both defenses were stellar, both goalies. I mean, it was crazy to watch. Loved that. But perhaps the most impressive thing, talking about the defense, is Madison Taylor, who plays for Northwestern, came in nation's leading scorer at 109 goals, left as the nation's leading scorer, but still with 109 goals because Carolina held her scoreless for the first time in her 45 career games. She had at least 2 goals in every game this season, and Carolina shut her out. Yes, she had multiple assists, but it was very much Jenny Levy was like, we're going to force somebody else to beat us here. And that's exactly what they did. Let me big picture the dominance of this season. I'm just going to throw a bunch of numbers at you because they're crazy. Carolina finishes the year 22-0, second undefeated national championship in the last 4 seasons. 4th national title ever for the Tar Heels, 2013, 16, 22, and 25. It's the 3rd most all-time behind Maryland's 14 and Northwestern's 8, for example. They outscored their opponents on the season 384 to 151. That is a plus 233 goal differential. Insanity. The average score per game, Carolina averaged 17.5 goals, while their opponents averaged 16.9 goals. That's more than plus 10 average per game. Carolina, I said their season low was 12, so they scored at least 12 in every game this year, while on the other hand, only 4 of their opponents got double digits this year. Maybe the most impressive thing of this whole season to me is of Carolina's 22 games, 15 of them were against ranked opponents. Listen to the seeds or the rankings of these opponents. 1, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 14, 14, 16, 18, 20. All told, Carolina knocked off 7 top 5 teams. All told, Carolina knocked off 10 top 10 teams and 15 top 20 teams. The rest of the Final Four, those other 3 teams, Boston College, Northwestern, and Florida, Carolina was 6-0 against those 3 teams this year. That is pure and utter dominance. This is the third for Carolina as a university. This is now the 13th time they have won multiple national championships in the same academic year, with women's soccer winning back in the fall. I mean, just absurdity. And really, field hockey probably should have won too. They just unfortunately couldn't pull it together. And what's great is this women's lacrosse team ain't going anywhere. Looking ahead, this is a young team that should continue to be in great shape. Yes, we lose some of the Humphreys, but Chloe herself is a redshirt freshman, scored 90 goals, beat Jamie Ortega's single season record of 82, and set an NCAA freshman scoring record. Kate Levy, Coach Jenny Levy's daughter, is just a defensive stud. She's a freshman. Betty Nelson, I think redshirt freshman as well, had the lowest goals against average in the nation this season. So it's like, it ain't like, all right, next year's rebuilding. No. This train should keep on rolling. Absolutely. Jenny Levy, I think, what was the stat? With this win, the national championship win, is now tied for the 2nd most lacrosse wins all time. Just really, really crazy stuff for the lacrosse team. Dominance like this just makes me, step on them, right? Like, I just absolutely love it. Congrats, ladies, on your 4th all-time national championship. Love that. Okay, lots more to do tomorrow and the rest of the week coming up. Excited to be together and going through it. If you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that now so you don't miss a second of Locked on Tar Heels. We'd love to have you here. If you've not joined us in the Locked on Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you there. That link is in the show notes. A group of over 500 Tar Heels fans hanging out, talking all the time. If you want to go even deeper with the show, Locked on Tar Heels Insiders, that link's in the show notes. A great way to help support the show and get all sorts of perks. Would love to have you there as well. You guys, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. We'll talk again tomorrow, but until then, peace.